Hi. Hello. Whoa. Feels this almost feels a little out of pocket, but hi. It's it's me. It's been a very long time. I'm okay. Everything is good. Shit. It's been a very long time. It's been a very, very, very long time. Look, I'll just be straight honest. I was not doubting the podcast. I was actually enjoying the conversations that I was having. I was enjoying the people that I was with, and I was enjoying in a way, the community that I was building in a sense, where I was getting a lot of like-minded people who were also on the same path as myself, who wanted to do things, wanted to make things of themselves, working on stuff, trying to build companies or businesses. But I took a deep look at myself at the very young age of 24, which, I mean, look, if you're 20 years old doubting yourself whether or not you're going to make it, like, chill the fuck out, okay? Because you're still so fucking young, right? Even myself, right? I tell myself that a lot. Sometimes you need to slow yourself down on the fact that you're young and you're trying to make it, but you're not there yet. It's tough. And sometimes, honestly, at the end of the day, you just have to fucking deal with it. So I was at the very young age. Granted, I turned 24 this past month, pretty much the month that I took the break. So I recently went out to Tecate to do a podcast with a very good close friend of mine. And honestly, by the time I returned, I didn't even want to look at my camera bag. So I apologize to my friend. I still haven't put it up just because the last thing I want to do is just sit on my desk and edit. And that's just me being completely honest. Maybe it's just me being a little bitch, or I don't know. But, anyways, I was there sitting alone with the lights turned off in a bed miles and miles away from home with a heater being our nightlight for the night. And I was just pondering on the question, it already being past midnight, that I was 24 years old, but I had done a lot of things, trying to build businesses, trying to make something of myself, trying to be successful, trying to be wealthy or financially stable or advance. That was the main focal point of the past 3.5 years. It's been nothing short of self improvement, self diligence, self efficiency, discipline, motivation, consistency. I can rest when I'm dead. I can have fun when I make the corporation that makes millions of dollars. It's just this very ingrained sort of mentality to make it or die. Success or die. That was really my mentality for a long period of time, where it was so self-absorbed in a sense where it was just me. And I think there's a good sense of bravery in trying to make something of yourself, make something of yourself, trying to build something, trying to make a podcast or trying to make a YouTube and just trying to make things work. It's good, right? Spend a long period of time isolated so that way you can understand the way you function, you can understand yourself really well. But in the height of that, you also experience a lot less, and your mentality is becoming this, it's me against the world, it's me against the people that are around me. Just because they don't think the same way that I do, it means that I need to castigate them and I need to get them away from my inner circle so that way they don't rot me or they don't make me less than what I'm capable of. And that was my mentality for a long period of time. But at the outcome of it, this past April of 2024, when my business just kerplunked, and I was no longer able to put in the amount of effort in order to get another client or in order to sustain myself in the manner that I wanted to. I was 8 months out of work, and I just couldn't do it anymore. It was this voluntary protest against not putting in effort knowingly. Like I knowingly knew that not putting in work would put me into a deeper hole, and I did it anyway because the work had become less of a chore. It had become this handcuff that I put onto myself by my own doing. I was the one that put on the handcuff. Nobody else did. Me. It was just me who did it. So, yeah. So when that went south, not the way I wanted it to, and I kerplunked and I felt like a failure and I wanted to, that's where, so pretty much that whole ordeal that happened, I thought of that and I went through it. And on the outcome of it, I received nothing. I didn't get the big lump of cash. I didn't get the business that I'm able to be location free and have $10,000 come in each month, or I can work from home all day, every day, free of restrictions, do what I want, when I want, however I want to do it with whoever I want to do it with. None of that happened. I went back to reality, which was working a 9 to 5 and doing this life that I was just trying to run away from. So that brings me back to that bed that I was sitting in and laying down in 100 miles away from home in the dark with a heater that was my nightlight. And I thought to myself, what have you done, George? What have you literally done? You've done a lot. You've experienced a lot. You've gained a lot of wisdom and a lot of lessons throughout this piece of life that you call 20 to 23, but you have not advanced. You're in the same position you're in with $4 more money that you're making than before, but you're in the same position. What are you doing? And that's a beautiful question to ask yourself very often. And it's only beautiful if you allow it to be. It's only beautiful if you allow it to fuel action rather than avoid avoid it and to ruminate in stagnancy. I don't know. I think it's beautiful, but so I really sat down with it, and upon being around people at that time who were just what it seemed like action oriented, hanging out with my friend really brought back that dog sort of mentality and that energy that I haven't felt in a very long time. Seeing how disciplined he was, not eating, not drinking any water for a couple of days, and seeing how much fun and how much of a blast he was having within the process, it really brought everything back into perspective as to what I want to do and where my direction should be headed. So I've been very tuned in onto curiosity and drive and what sparks George. So upon going back, I went back to school for 2 weeks. One whopping week. And then the second week I dropped out. Because it's just this whole thing that school, the reason why I decided to go back to school was because I wanted to advance. I wanted to find a job that would eventually pay me a good a whopping amount of cash doing something that that I do find a lot of joy. It piques my curiosity. It fulfills a lot of the things that I think about on a given basis, and it helps me, which is psychology. That was kind of the main reason why I was going back to school, so I could be like a psychotherapist or something, because this stuff is all cool. But upon going back, I realized something that I had to ask myself the question again. If you were fearless and you could not fail, if you were fearless and you could not fail, what would you do and why? And there's this thing, if you ever come into my room, I hope you don't come into my room, it's a little messy at the moment. There is nothing but evidence pointing into the direction that I should be writing a fucking book, but I keep glossing other things, slowly getting away from it because it's kind of fucking scary to write a book. And it's a lot of work, and it's a lot of discipline, and it's a lot of effort, and it's a lot of going back and rewatching a lot of the things that you had to deal with in the process. So we decided to go forward with that. I dropped out of school, and I've been writing my book, which I don't want to say the name but it's literally right there. I've been writing a book, and it's freaking crazy. I just have to remind myself that I'm more of a writer than I've been anything else. Because if you were to look in my freaking room right now, I have two notebooks right here. I have another notebook that I just carry around with me. I literally right in front of me have one, two, three, four, five, six filled yellow graded notebooks right in front of me with other scattered papers with a book on top of it. In my drawer right now, I have one, two, three, four, five, six. I have six journals that is meant for writing paper. And then above that one, I have one, two, I have seven filled notebooks and journals. And on the very bottom, I have a random ideas journal or a random ideas inspiration drawer. And for some reason, I thought maybe I'm a therapist. It happens, right? I think we sometimes gloss over the things that we actually want to do with something we think we want to do. And I'd rather focus on my passion, something that is deeply ingrained and something so hard to get out of my head and focus just on that with no guidance, no blueprint on how I can make it happen, than to do something that just piques my curiosity, something that, yeah, it seems cool. And yeah, after 4 years, 7 years, then I could get a really good job. But I have to give up the pursuit or give up the passion that I have for something else so that way I can just focus on that. I don't know. Just school and I have never gotten along well. And honestly, my first assignment that was due, I nailed it. Like I put in 5 pages for a 2 page thing, and I know I'll be a good, I'm such a good student, but the time it took in order to do that got rid of like 70% of my writing time, and I was like, no. Which brings me to the reason why I'm here. Now let's start the podcast. So, all right, we're only at 12 minutes, so this is great. I love this. This is amazing. Okay, so I've been writing on Substack recently. So if you guys are watching this, go ahead and shoot a follow on the Substack because there's going to be so freaking much good shit coming up soon. Very, very soon. I'm talking about chapters of the book. I'm talking about things that I find curious, like that I like or enjoy, or lessons that I've learned along the way. Things that I write a lot, guys, and I'm gonna stop denying that I'm a writer now. So let's talk about one of my favorite ones that I've written about, and it's called "You Don't Need Pain to Change." And yeah, I spoke to Tracy a while back ago, and she talked about this quote that said, "You don't need a crisis to change. You don't need a diagnosis to change. You don't need a breakup to change. You're already capable of making the change within yourself. It just takes a shift of perspective or a shift of mentality or mindset." And the reason why I bring this up, you don't need pain to change, is because when I originally started in my whole self-improvement journey, my personal growth journey, it came from pain. It came the inception of everything came from a pain that hurt me so much that there was no other thing to do besides change. And once I realized just how potent of an individual I am, how much potential I have, how much capacity of work that I'm able to put in, and who I'm able to like drag out of me, somebody who I always felt was in there somewhere, but I was never able to get him out physically, and then being able to see him come out and manifest outside of me, it was a completely just a life-changing perspective. But the only way it came about was by change, or excuse me, by pain. Pain had to be inflicted upon me for me to wake up and to change. So here I go again. I've been I really felt the deep pain in April once my business kerplunked, but it wasn't the kind of pain that allowed me to wake up and change. It was more so the pain that allowed me to collapse and break down. And within that time frame, when I was in therapy, when I was just lost and felt like a loser and ashamed of myself for failing, I felt as if I needed to find another way to reap pain, so that way that fight or flight, that emotional chaos, that fire would come back, so that way I can use it again to make another attempt at something else, another business, another podcast, another YouTube channel. So I kept waiting for the pain to come, but in the meantime, I was copying and pasting my previous life over to my current life. So now that I didn't have a business to run, well, I was still waking up early in the morning and engaging on Twitter. I was still waking up in the morning and doing a cold plunge or taking a walk so that way I could think of ideas to write. I was still, I was still writing on my whiteboard. At this time, you got to wake up. But I noticed that I wasn't waking up. I was snoozing. I wasn't going on the walks. I wasn't doing the writing. And that caused a lot of damage because here I was no longer able to wake up at the time I told myself I would. Here I was no longer able to write the things that I said I would write. Here I was skipping the gym sessions that I told myself I wouldn't. Here I was skipping the running. Here I was eating the foods that weren't aligned with my diet or where I wanted to take my body. It was just a lot of contradiction. It was a lot of opposing to the person that I wanted to be and taking full ownership of the person that I was now, which was this lost individual. And it's crazy how we often, life has so many elements that we have to recycle it eventually. So 3 years ago, I was completely lost and stuck. And then just this past year, I felt like I was completely lost and stuck again because I failed at something. It's just so interesting. So yeah, that took a lot. But the reason I bring that up too is because we're just going back to pain. I felt as if I needed pain, but that pain wasn't something that was going to wake me up. It was more so just breaking me down. Man, it's just crazy just thinking about that shit, dude. It's so crazy thinking about that. So, yeah, it's crazy. Um in the post I put, I felt as if I lost the version of myself that I once was, the disciplined, the driven and obedient to the work George. Not only that, I compared the George that I was today compared to the George that was working 16-hour days, hitting the gym 6 times a week, working two jobs and building a business at the same time, 7 days a week, Monday to Monday. And there was a point where I remember vividly, finally going back to the obedient George that was disciplined, the one that was consistent and showing up every day, and feeling the great positivity and joy of positive self-esteem, feeling good about yourself for showing up and doing the things that you said you would do and saying fuck you to your emotions and whatever. But then within that given time frame, after 2 weeks, 3 weeks, maybe a month, I would break my headlights. I would say no. Mm-mm. Which would mean, I was doing a really good on a cut for 3 weeks, but then I would have 3 days straight of just straight binging. I would have a month with no weed, and I would have back to back to back days of just smoking, eating edibles, and just ruining the progression that I had already made. I remember going weeks without caffeine and then beginning to eat or beginning to consume caffeine every single day. even though I knew I didn't need it. I remember going to sleep so much later just to watch movies or to watch shows, and then castigating myself for watching the shows and staying up late. It was just me breaking myself apart, even though I wanted to make a change, but I just didn't know where I was headed. I didn't have a direction. I didn't have a goal. I didn't have a purpose as to what I was trying to reach. It was just self imposed discipline. It was the self imposed discipline that I placed upon myself to be action oriented, because the thought or the act of not doing or not moving or not making progress or self improving was like hell to me, because I rewired myself to be this disciplined, this action oriented individual that does the things that he thinks of. And it's just crazy. I rewired myself to the fact, to the point of discomfort being my comfort and comfort was my discomfort. I had a harder time making plans going bowling with my friends than I did waking up at 2:45 a.m. to cold plunge, to go to the gym, go to work, go to work right after work, and then to work on my business right after work. And then to repeat that 7 days a week, Monday to Monday. That was more comfortable than, hey, George, what time do you want to go bowling? Can you believe that? Fuck, man. Yeah. So that's tough, right? Like, that's tough having to reap that sort of doubt or that comparison amongst yourself. But really, the only way I was able to get over that was allowing myself to sit with the peace that I was in. Because for the first time in a long time, everything around me was okay. I wasn't fighting for my life. I wasn't in fight or flight the moment I woke up. The only time I felt like I had a break was when I was asleep. And the moment I woke up, I was already in work mode. Um, so sitting with the amount of peace that I had, because I was so used to chaos, I was finally able to just relax for the first time in years. And amid that time of just peace and just solace and quiet in nature, taking walks, writing, that's where the next sort of whispers started flowing themselves in. Where, hey, you can try this. Actually, you only like this. Actually, you can reduce this constraint. You can get rid of this. And you don't really actually enjoy doing this. So you could just put all your focus onto this. Within that time frame, it was just arachnid on its web. Just constructing things the way they need to be, growing, improving, structuring the webs in the way that I need them to be, so that way I can just improve. It was really just an arachnid on its web. But honestly, the reason why I've come across this conclusion as to you don't need pain is because, well, pain came again. How much time do I have? Pain came again. This sting came, and I was expecting it to be this overload. Like, okay, it happened. Yes, confirmation. Here we fucking go. I'm going to the fucking moon. And it didn't happen that way. I realized since the last time I was in pain, I've grown. I've gained a lot of wisdom, a lot of books, as you can see, over 100 books. Um, I've learned a lot. I've found out more about myself. And so when I noticed that the pain came, it didn't cause me this havoc. It didn't cause me to break the walls surrounded by me. It didn't cause me to get consumed by this fuel. It was actually something that I was able to dash away from. It was something that I was able to get away from without being harmed by it. And by the acknowledgement that I was able to see it before it was able to come crashing down on me, kind of gave me confidence on the idea that I understand problems when I see them. And since then, for some reason, I was able to not be fueled by it, but by be fueled by the amount of growth that I've made in the process compared to where I was at before. Before I got consumed by it, but this time I kind of noticed it before it even happened. And that's growth. That's wisdom. It's wisdom is not partaking in activities. Wisdom is not doing things because you know it's not right. The act of not doing because you have a understanding is wisdom. Not, oh, that's not right. That's I should do this because no, it's just not doing because you see where it can go and you don't want to take yourself down that path. That's wisdom. Huh. So, honestly, coming back down to it, I wrote it down. So, pretty much, instead of thinking you need unsustainable fire, there's a fuel far more grounded in self drive, discipline, and motivation. One that's cleaner, fresher, less dangerous, and more sustainable. You don't need the same level of chaos to feel powerful anymore. You're already the person in strength, the one capable of walking away from the fire before it falls down on top of you, not building it from scratch. Be comfortable moving forward without suffering. The change can happen any day you'd like. You're in control of that. And that's enough. You don't need pain to change. Man, this is nice. I missed this. But if you really do want to see more of me, if you do really want to see more of George, go ahead and leave the Substack because that's where I'm going to be for a long period of time. It's less constraints. There's less fluff that I need to put up there. I don't need to focus on making a thumbnail and doing the editing and piecing the video and the clips together and putting the clips on IG and putting them onto shorts and editing them in a manner that causes the algorithm to put my video on the timeline and the home to send it out to other, like, I'm done with that shit. I'm so fucking over it. And that was past George, right? Like, that's fine. That was past George, but not this George, right? Like, this George is just trying to fuck, I don't know. We're trying to figure it out though. We're trying to figure it out. We're trying to figure out what this George wants. And yeah, fuck. It's been a long time and I hope everyone's okay. Uh I'm gonna go back to my rock now. So I'll see you soon and have a fantastic day.